Started. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today and investing an hour of your time into exploring what beliefs are holding you back so you can just start making empowered choices about how you want to show up in the world. And just by coming here, you're already doing that. I think it's a really courageous step towards creating the reality you want for yourself. So before we jump into this vulnerable and powerful session, I just want to take a minute for us to get present. So just taking a deep breath and letting go of, whatever happened before this session, whatever you have scheduled after. Let's just be here together in this moment. All right, welcome to Impactury's Transforming Limiting Beliefs workshop with Jarrett. So first, I'll give you a little background on me, then I'm going to introduce Skye. I'll hand it off to her to work her magic. And at the end, we're going to share a few opportunities with you where you can explore these topics a bit further if you're interested. So I'm Sarah Powell. I'm the founder of Impactury. And before Impactury, I was a consultant for Accenture. I was the chief operating officer of a digital consultancy. And I also co-founded a clean water social enterprise in Ethiopia. So I would say I'm a high achieving, motivated person, which I love, but up until the last few years, I was really living in a state of chronic stress. And I really believe that this was from deeply rooted limiting beliefs that I had. So for me, I believed I deserve nothing. Like nothing is for free and you have to work for everything that you have. And I thought this also applied to love. And since I didn't understand that I was worthy of love just by being me, I was unconsciously doing a lot of things to be worthy, to be valued, to be loved. And to me, that meant appearing to be perfect. So I put a ton of pressure on myself to be perfect, like to look perfect, have the perfect job, perfect apartment, perfect life. And I had so much anxiety that people would find out that I wasn't perfect, to the point where sometimes I was even scared to leave the house without having a little bit of makeup on, because what if someone saw me? And this anxiety consumed me, but no one realized it, not even me, because the way my anxiety manifests is I'm a very high functioning anxious person. So I become laser focused. I'm super productive, which is what pushed me to do so well professionally and kind of like do it all. But this constant pressure and stress that I had was obviously not sustainable. After about a year of this, my health finally began to rapidly decline, where I started seeing issues with my thyroid. I was having uncontrollable weight loss, depression, very obvious anxiety, and eventually I wasn't able to work. And for me, that was my wake-up call. So I started getting curious about, like, how did I get to this place? I started meditating, which I cannot recommend meditation enough. But through a meditation practice, journaling, seeing a therapist, this is when I realized, oh, I don't think that I deserve anything, and that I was hustling for my worthiness, and that I was seeking validation and love externally. And that realization, that awareness really changed my life, because now I felt empowered to actually make a change in my life. And so now I'm still able to achieve my ambitious goals, but with a sense of calm, ease, and joy. And now I believe I am worthy of love unconditionally. And this new belief has given me the courage to be vulnerable and just really go all in on life and go after my dreams, which is what inspired me to start this business. And I started realizing, as I was changing, everything in my life started aligning more with my values, my work, friends, colleagues. And that's actually how Skye and I ended up meeting. So we have very similar and varied life experiences, personally and professionally, that ultimately brought us together to help others achieve their ambitious goals, but without that hustle and grind and stress. So Skye is someone who is unapologetically herself, and I absolutely love it. Just by being herself, she's really inspired me to do the same, and I hope that some of that inspiration will rub off on you all today. So she left her corporate life as a consulting senior executive to become a transformational leadership coach and a mindfulness instructor for some of the top companies in the world. And if you join us on the Impactury Wellness Retreat this April in Nepal, she will be guiding you through your personal transformation. So it is such an honor to work with her. I'm going to hand it off to you, Sky, to do your thing, and I'll come back to you at the end.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome to everyone. Awesome to see familiar faces. I am tuning in from Montego Bay, Jamaica right now. Okay, if you couldn't tell, this is not a fake Zoom background. This is the real deal. I am so happy to be here. Sarah was like, oh, this is what the relaxed hustle looks like. Yes, this is it. This is what the relaxed hustle looks like. Finding my glide as I work from here for the remainder of this week. So it is such an honor to be here with you, to be exploring this conversation that every single one of us can find our way through. And as Sarah mentioned, she hinted to, I am, when I tell you, on a serious mission to normalize and globalize the relaxed hustle. I'll share a lot more about my story today as an recovering overachieving perfectionist, and how some of the work that I'll share with you today and the work that we'll be doing on the retreat will really support you in transforming your tendencies that we'll be exploring today. I will just tell you right now, like, this is going to be more than just an information session. So I have two invitations for you. Invitation number one, if you haven't yet, make sure that you grab a notebook and a pen. Those of you who are here for my first session, you already know the drill. You probably came prepared. I'm going to give the rest of you a chance to get prepared. So grab a notebook. Awesome, Charlene. Love it. I see you, Kalisha. Yes, you are ready because you know the deal. And thing number two, if you have not yet, I'm going to invite you to give yourself the permission to really, really immerse in the time that we have together. So hands off the keyboard, and to the extent possible, see if you can just let go of the million things that I'm sure is competing for your attention right now, and just really dive in to this session. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart, give me something chat. Let me know if you are ready to dive in. All right, let's do this. So what we're going to be exploring today is really a conversation on transforming limiting beliefs through the power of awareness. That's the conversation we're going to have. And in terms of our agenda, just a couple of things that we'll actually be walking through. Number one is I want to make this as practical for you as possible. So we'll actively be working through a specific shift that you would like to see in your own life. I'll also make it very practical and applicable by sharing a little bit about my own story of transformation, so that as I introduce the framework that we're going to be walking through, you can see the applicability of how this actually works. You can really see the mechanics through my story as well. And that was a huge unlock for me. So I'll introduce you to the framework on how the power of awareness can support you in transforming limiting beliefs. And let me just tell you, there are layers and layers and layers to this work. Kalisha can tell you the number of times we've had this conversation. So for those of you who are doing this exploration for the first time, this might be a first pass. And that's great. We'll scratch the surface. But at the end of today's session, we're going to share a lot more about the Impactury retreat, which will happen in April, which is an opportunity for you to really do a more deep exploration of this, a journey of incredible self-discovery, which I just think is going to be the trip of a lifetime. I cannot wait. So we'll spend some time at the end talking about that. So if you are ready, let us dive in and start with our guided contemplation, helping you to really identify a shift in your own life. So my invitation, if it's comfortable for you, is to close your eyes And if that does not feel comfortable, then option to hold a soft gaze looking downward, maybe find a spot on the floor in front of you or an object in front of you, just to really hold a soft gaze. So choosing your own adventure here, eyes closed, allowing yourself to shift your awareness inward, resting your hands in your lap, and just holding a posture that for you feels supported and yet alert. And just taking a moment to really ground yourself by gathering your full attention on your breath. So to do that, let's take a few deep breaths in. On the inhale, allowing your breath to calm your central nervous system. And just opening the mouth on your exhale. And just letting it go. Whatever it is, whatever you might be carrying, whatever you might be holding, any tightness and tension, just with intention, allow yourself to just let it go and release on the exhale. So just allowing your breath to return to its natural rhythm, breathing as you normally would. I'm going to invite you to scan the areas of your life, whether work, relationship, communities that you interact with, just scanning all the areas of your life. And I'm going to invite you just to contemplate for a moment, what might you be feeling really challenged by right now? Is there an area of your life where you sense things just aren't going the way you'd like them to? You might be experiencing an unexpected, maybe an unwelcomed change. Or maybe it's something that's been going on for a while now, but much longer than you might like, and you're just ready for a breakthrough. So just contemplate that for a moment. And as you do, there might be many things that you are feeling challenged by. But I want you to trust yourself and sense if there might be one area that is calling out for your attention right now. So just choosing one. Just trusting that this is the thing that deserves my attention for this moment. So just stay with that choice for now. And I want you to ask yourself, what about this needs to shift? What is the change that I sense needs to happen? Whether you like the answer or not. Just see if you can simply notice what's coming up with a sense of curiosity. So what is that shift? In your own time and at your own pace, I'll invite you to open eyes when you're ready and write down whatever has come up for you, whether it makes sense or not. We're not trying to solve anything right now, but just write down what is the thing that you are sensing needs to shift. That might be crystal clear, or it can be almost amorphous. Like, I'm not really sure, but there's something right below the surface. And that's okay. Wherever you are in the spectrum of clarity to uncertain, that's okay. But just write down any hints that might be helpful. Okay. So this could also be a goal that you've set for yourself this year. something that you want to see made possible in your life, and you can choose to work with that too. But I really think that this session would be the most powerful for you if you have something specifically to work with. So give me a thumbs up, a yes in the chat. I'm ready to go. Some indication that you've something to work. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Kalisha. All right. Reginald says yes. Awesome. Thank you, Tony. Well, hello, Tony Campbell. It's wonderful to see you. So what we're going to be exploring, is there a question? Or was that my echo? Okay. So invitation once more to close your eyes, and what we're going to explore together is this sense that any shift, any goal that you are working towards will happen when you go inward. And you might have heard me say before that any external change that you're hoping for requires internal work. And so that happens when you step into your inner world and you start to notice, you bring a sense of radical acceptance. And through deliberate introspection, which we'll do today, of that internal landscape, examining your beliefs, looking at your emotional states, looking at the way that you arrive at the choices that you make, exploring your core values and seeing how they are at play in the choices that you're making. Your desires, those that have been met, maybe unmet, and how those unmet needs are driving certain ways of being. So through this process of introspection, you will start to build your self-awareness. Things start to become clear, and somehow you can see more clearly. You start to gain insights, and eventually you will arrive at a kind of clarity and understanding that it just lights you up. And with this self-awareness, you can step into a space of possibility, a space that is far more liberating, that feels so spacious, so expansive, and it's just delicious. And you start to see these inner workings with fresh eyes, with a deeper understanding of self, like, I get it. It's a knowing that creates an opening to the possibility of becoming something new, maybe someone new. And you start to realize eventually that the past, it starts to lose its power over you. It's a way of being, this way of thinking that you know is no longer serving you. What we'll explore together today is, do I have outdated reactions that served me in another time of my life that I've simply outgrown, that it might be time to let go of? My hope is that you realize that with more awareness comes the power to choose. And with choice comes freedom. My hope is that you start to notice what it feels like for life to happen for you, not just to you. That with awareness, with love, and with mindful action, you can continue to step in, to see, to choose, and to start to witness life unfolding in a different way. It's like you're in this flow state and you start to notice the results. And the people around you will start to notice as well, because there's a sense of clarity and a sense of lightness in your way of being that brings ease and the kind of calmness that you only dreamed was possible. And you never actually imagined yourself living in it. And from this place, you start to immerse yourself into your life in a different way. Your relationships will be filled with more love and more patience, more understanding, with a deeper kind of connection. And this kind of grace that will warm and comfort those that you love most. It's as if nothing will ever be the same, because you will be forever changed and more deeply in love with your life and with yourself and with your loved ones. This is the journey that becomes possible through the power of awareness. this is what we are going to be exploring together today. So get comfortable in your seats, buckle up, and I hope you enjoy the ride. When you're ready, open your eyes. Most of you are not on video, so I cannot see if you are with me. Give me a yes in the chat, a heart, a thumbs up to let me know that you are still here. Awesome. Reginald says, I'm with you. Thank you, Hillary. All right. So welcome back. What we just walked through is hopefully a contemplation of the power of awareness is exactly what it is. Anthony, it's wonderful to see you, my friend. But I want to take that concept and make it really practical. I want you to see how this actually works. So I'm going to share with you a concrete example. I'm going to be very vulnerable. I'm going to share my own story of transformation. And then I'm going to walk you through the steps of applying the specifics to your situation. So you actually apply these steps to the shift that you identify that you want to make in your life. So let us dive in. You may or may not know much about my story. I like to say that I'm a recovering consulting executive. I worked at one of the world's largest consulting firms, and about 6 or 7 years into my consulting career, let me tell you, I thought I had it made, okay? My leadership team was incredibly supportive of me and really invested in my development. I think they had hopes and dreams for me that I couldn't even see for myself. And I was on the path to becoming a partner at the firm, which at the time I thought was like the epitome of success. And it became my definition of success. And I was feeling really good about life. You know, my mom was really proud. I would hear her telling her friends about me, and I would just walk with my chest so open, like I am doing my thing, like I am just high on life, or so I thought. So here I am, young, recently married, living what I thought was the best life in DC. I think DC is one of the coolest cities in the entire world. Shout out to my DMV peeps. And I was appointed to be an accounting executive leading multiple projects across many different federal agencies and solving some really interesting issues. So the work was really interesting. I was really motivated. And let me tell you, being an overachieving perfectionist with this eye on the prize of promotion, I just started doing what any overachiever would do, right? I worked my butt off going after that promotion. I was pulling all-nighters, becoming a rapid responder, every email that comes in from the client, I'm the first to respond, and really pushing the team for excellence because I was convinced that my team's work was a reflection of my leadership. And I was just doing the most, okay? Doing the most. I was convinced that I needed to function at a certain level, that I needed to do certain things, that I needed to be a certain thing. I needed to be in all the places, have all the right answers, and save the day every chance I could get so that everyone would see and just let the record show, okay, that I was worthy of this promotion. And I'm sure many of you might relate to this. The truth is, I was exhausted. I was just exhausted, but I kept pushing, right? Because this is the hustle and grind culture that if you continue, you will achieve, right? Like that's the recipe, that's the formula. And so one morning I'm on the train, I'm heading to my client site. We are approaching the Pentagon train station, and I start noticing this really strong sense of nausea. And I think, oh, it must just be the metro ride because I'm sitting there and you can smell the fumes. It's like that greasy, nasty smell that you smell on the train or on the metro. So I thought maybe it's just a ride. But then it came back the next day. Same thing. I'm sitting there and I start to notice this nausea. And then I really start to get curious, right? I really start to pay attention. And I realized that something really interesting started to happen, that the closer I got to the office building where my client site was, the more intensely I could feel the nausea. And I'm curious if anyone has ever noticed this experience. Like you're going into work and your body just starts having a reaction. Parmes is like, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's as if your body is having a reaction to work or what it knows you're about to step into. So what strangest thing, it was the first time I had ever experienced that. And this thought pops into my head, the body never lies. The body never lies. And so I'm making my way into the building. I go into the elevator. I press the button for the 7th floor. And all I can hear is the body never lies. The body never lies. By the way, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a session on body-based decision-making, tapping into the intelligence of the body. So if that's something of interest to you, then join me tomorrow evening as well. We'll be exploring that. So anyway, I'm in the elevator. We get up to the 7th floor, the doors open, and I make my way into the bathroom. And I place my hands on the bathroom counter and I look into the mirror, staring into my eyes as if having a conversation with my own soul. Gary Zukov, who wrote Seat of the Soul, he believes that the heart is the seat of the soul and that the eyes are a window into our soul. And so I'm having this conversation with myself and I'm piercing into my eyes. And I'm like, what is this? And then I just pause just to see what wisdom is going to emerge. And I hear this voice pop into my head. You can't keep doing this. You're not supposed to be here. And I'm like, wait a minute, like back it up. That is not what I wanted to hear. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you think you're talking about, but no, okay? Because I have life pretty figured out right now. And what you're saying is not something that I need to hear. And so I quiet the noise and I leave the bathroom to join one of my teams who were having a morning stand-up with the client. And so we're in this circular huddle and I'm standing there looking at the faces of people that I single-handedly convinced to come on board to this client. I sold them on a dream, okay, that we were going to build something special together. And now I am having this feeling of, I can't be here. I can't keep doing this. And so I become really preoccupied with the voices in my head and I just could not stay focused. So more to come on what happens next. But what I want to share is why this was for me a moment of transformation. I call it an upset. It's a moment that changed my life forever. And it's important to point this out because many of us have these moments, but we ignore them. And so I want to just characteristically share some of the things that were really true for me in that moment, some of which I think some of you might be able to relate to. So thing number one is I was for sure living life in default mode, which this idea of just sleepwalking our way through life, just being on a treadmill, going through motions. We wake up, we get the kids out the door, we go to work, we get home, we have dinner, we put the kids to bed, rinse and repeat the next day. We get into a rhythm of autopilot. And in my case, I was wearing busyness as like the badge of honor. I took pride in telling my leadership team just how busy things were, as if my productivity was my self-worth, because I was convinced that I needed to be a certain way. I needed to do a certain thing. I needed to show up in a certain way and show up as if I'm so busy to be seen as valuable, to be seen as worthy. And in many ways, I think in retrospect, I realize now that I was actually caught up in other people's definition of success. And I had to ask myself, is this what I actually want? I was so disconnected from my own truth and from what was actually important in my own life. I mean, think about this, right? We grow up and we have teachers who are telling us where we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to wear. We look to our parents for guidance. We grow up and we look to doctors to tell us if there's something wrong with us. We look like there's so many ways that life conditions us to look outside ourselves for guidance. And I think more so now with social media, what living a great life looks like and what it means to be successful, what happiness should look like. And it's really a wake-up call for me that I have to search inside myself so that I can tap into my own internal compass that every single one of us has that can guide us through every choice that we are faced with in our lives. And I distinctly remember waking up one morning, you know, those days when you're like, okay, can I figure out how to invent like 12 more hours in the day because I don't know how I'm going to get through it? Anyone had one of those days before ever in life? Yes. So it's one of those days, and my sister calls and she says, I hope your bag is packed because I'm going into labor. And I was like, no, you're not. Like, this is not the day for you to go into labor. And I didn't say that to her. I got off the phone, I packed my bag, I got on the plane, and I was able to make it in time for my sister Noeli's birth. But what that experience showed me was it was a different perspective on what I was prioritizing. The fact that my response wasn't, oh my God, are you okay? I'm going to be there. It really showed me just how disconnected I was from what is most important in life. And I was able to give myself the permission to actually take 2 weeks off to support my sister. And so what I'm learning is that if you don't listen to the whispers, you will be forced to hear the screams. Just let that sink in. What I want to invite you to investigate is how might life be whispering for your attention? When you sat and asked yourself today, what do I sense needs to shift? Whatever came up is a gentle whisper. For some of you, it might have felt like a scream. Pay attention to that because life will keep knocking at your door. That conversation that I had with myself in the mirror that day, that voice that I heard was my soul whispering, asking, begging for a different way. And I heard it, but I didn't like it. I didn't want to hear what this voice had to say because the life that I was living at the time was a life of certainty. I do these things, I make these achievements, I have these accomplishments. The North Star is there. The promotion is guaranteed. Just stay on track. And so I chose not to listen. And when I tell you, life kept presenting so many different moments of voices that I chose not to listen to, that it actually took being robbed at gunpoint for me to have a wake-up call and be like, okay, life, what is it that I'm not listening to? It took that incident for me to realize just how important life is. And for me to be confronted with my own mortality, to really put things into perspective, where I had this thought of like, wow, well, if those gunmen had killed me, what would my life be worth? What would I have lived for? You know, that Beyonce song where she was like, I am here. And because I was here, this is the legacy that I leave behind. So what is the legacy that you want to leave in the world? And how often do you think about that? How often does that thought guide the choices that you make? And so what we'll do today as we explore together, what I hope one of the takeaways that you get from this conversation is the power of choice. And for you to ask yourself, really be honest, what will it take for me to make the change, for me to shift from the person that I am today? I know it's familiar. I know it's comfortable. I know it's probably what you've known, but you know, we both know in your hearts of hearts that there is something, there's a way of being that's not serving you right now. And I just want you to be honest with yourself about what it will take for you to make that shift. And for the record, the shift I'm talking about is not like an external change that we hope to see in our lives, right? It's the internal work that's going to be required for you to have sustainable change. Anthony is here. He's been on a path for months doing this work. I'm not suggesting that it's easy, but I'm hoping that you will see that it's possible. Because transformation is life's impulse to grow, literally knocking at your door. And I know you can feel that impulse. So I want us to really unpack the human condition and explore what it will take. You don't have to go this journey alone, and you don't have to do it in the dark. I want you to walk away today with an understanding, at least with an understanding of what it will take for you to make that shift. Whatever the shift that you identified at the beginning, whatever goal you have that you're working on, that is what we're going to be working through today. So what you see on the next slide is the process that unfolded for me. So I had this moment of upset, that moment in the mirror, the nausea, my body, like a full body experience. And one of my teachers, Jonathan Faust, he likes to say, our issues are in our tissues. And so the body never lies. And so these sensations that we have in our body, they show up as nausea. Sarah shared her story. They show up as anxiety. For some of us, they show up as backaches or some other form of dis-ease. These all function as a sort of a check engine light that something is requiring your attention. And so that nausea for me was life's impulse to grow. And it brought me to a point of awareness, right? I was able to give it my attention. It's like shining a flashlight in a dark room on the thing that needs your attention, and you can see it more clearly. And from that point of awareness, it gave me a choice, an opportunity to shift the way that I was operating, to practice a new way of being. And as you can imagine how this story unfolds, what do you think I did in response to that voice? Of all the things I could have done, of all the changes I could have made, what do you think I did? I decided to change my environment, which is an obvious choice that many of us try to make. I thought, okay, maybe if I change this job and I go somewhere else, that things will be different. How many times do we do that, right? We're in a relationship, things aren't going the way we want them to. We're like, oh, if I get another partner, things would be different. Or if I change the job, things would be different. Or if I move to another state or another country, I'll just keep running away from the issue. Things will be different. And sometimes it is. But what I also realize and what I'm learning is that things didn't change just because my environment did. Why? Because I was still the same person. You're sticking the same person in a different context, you're going to get the same results. Because the change that was required was a fundamental shift in my mindset. Changing my environment was not enough because our beliefs drive our thoughts drive our choices drive our behaviors and the actions that we take that then create the results that we see in our life. Now, here's the catch. This is the catch. It's all happening in our unconscious. You know what they say about the iceberg, right? It's just the tip of the iceberg. And so who we think we are, the lives we think we're creating is literally just the tip of the iceberg. Because our unconscious accounts for the majority of who we are and what we are made of. It's our conditioning. We call it the internal operating system, the software that lives inside of us that drives what happens in our lives. It's like anyone who works for a software company will know and understand the analogy of software coding that dictates what an app is able to do. The internal coding will dictate the external result. It's a very important phenomenon for us to understand. So when we talk about building our self-awareness, we're talking about lowering that waterline so we can see more clearly all of what's underneath the surface that's not evident to us. unless we turn inward, unless we do that introspection. I wasn't aware at the time of the beliefs, the stress-producing thoughts that were driving the way that I was thinking, the choices I was making, and the way that I was showing up, even as a leader of the different teams that I was leading at the time. So I want to break this down for you with a very concrete example. As Kevin Hart likes to say, let me explain. So maybe open your notebook and draw two icebergs, I call them iceberg, but it's really a triangle with two lines. And at the top line, just draw it a little bit longer to represent the water line. And I'm going to walk through my example, but I want you to think about what your iceberg will look like. And I want you to go back to the beginning of the session where we identified your shift. What are you shifting from? And what are you hoping to shift towards? So notebook open, from on the left, to on the right. Okay, here we go. I'll share mine. And I want you to think about yours. You will have access to the recording if you need to go back to this. And let me tell you, this took like a lot of therapy, a lot of coaching, a lot of introspection, a lot of meditation. So don't expect to have profound level of clarity and insight in this moment, but just write whatever comes up for now, okay? So here's the deal. Love my mom to death. Single parent, very strong, incredibly independent, incredibly hardworking, who instilled a value of excellence in me. And I remember coming home in second grade to her and her saying to me, no crooked letters on your report card. I want A's, no B's, no C's, no D's, and don't even think about getting an F. And so hearing this message from her, this shaped my internal operating system. So I started to operate because in my mind, I had made a relationship of, oh, so if I come home with straight A's, then I'm going to be accepted and celebrated by my mom, which is her way of showing me love. And so it was a very interesting moment, right? I learned what it meant to be loved. And so think back to what some of those moments are for you. The moments and experiences that you've had that shape the way that you think, that shape the way that you see the world, that inform your beliefs. Therefore, what we prioritize. So what that did for me, it created this belief that if I'm perfect, I will be loved. And it created my perfectionism. So my priority, my number one priority, I wasn't conscious of it, was on always getting it right, always getting it perfect. And that drove thoughts and feelings of pressure to perform, that things had to be perfect for them to be good enough. And so I'm sure you can start to imagine what that led to in terms of behaviors, right? The way that I was showing up, holding this very high standard of excellence with my team because of my perfectionism. I believe that their work determined my value. So I started to drill down on my team and imposed my sense of perfectionism onto their work, which created pressure on them. And I wasn't doing that consciously, right? Because remember, this is all happening unconsciously. It's below the waterline. This was my coding that drove these behaviors of overworking, doing a lot of rework because things had to be perfect, pulling all-nighters, prioritizing work over family. I just became a workaholic and just really so locked in because I wanted to achieve this goal of becoming, of being promoted. And then realizing that changing jobs didn't change any of that. So I changed jobs and I showed up in the same way, right? Perpetuating the same limiting beliefs and these stress producing beliefs that were driving my thoughts and my choices and therefore driving the way that I was behaving. So I want you to think about what that would look like in your iceberg. What are you placing value on? What is the belief that's driving this thing that you might be challenged by right now? It might actually be easier for you to work in the reverse. What is the challenge? What am I noticing about the behaviors that I'm engaging in? What are the thoughts and feelings driving those behaviors? And what might be the belief that's holding that? That's your limiting belief that's holding these behaviors in place. And so think about how you might need to upgrade your internal operating system. How can you create an enabling mindset that will support you in the result that you're hoping for, the shift that you're hoping to make? I'll take 2 more minutes, Sarah, just walk them through my 2 iceberg, and then we'll talk more about how we can continue this work. So my 2, I'm going from overachieving perfectionism, like this is not perfect, right? The wind is blowing, like everything is a mess, so not perfect. And I'm not having anxiety. So this is a great big step for me because the old me would not be happy right now with what's happening in this moment. But we're going through it. So for me, I still have this thought in my head from my mom, no crooked letters on the report card. That's still the case. And so the value of excellence that was instilled in me from my mom, that's still very present, let me assure you. So I could, in her mind, be successful and achieve great things in life and therefore be independent and self-sufficient, right? There were hopes and aspirations that she had for me, which is what drove that message, but it had an unintended impact, right? And so what had to change fundamentally, I had to choose to believe differently. It's consciously cultivating an enabling belief that will allow me to live what I pride as the relaxed hustle. It's the recognition and believing and knowing that I am worth more than my productivity or even my perfection, right? I can still deliver a great workshop experience and webinar for all of you who are watching, whether on live or on the recording, despite my imperfection right now, okay? That I can allow perfection, I cannot allow perfection to get in the way of good. That being done with something is good enough, even if it's not perfect. And so the thoughts and feelings that I started to cultivate, and I actively practice cultivating these thoughts and feelings, are around really having a learning orientation. Even if it's not perfect, even if I fail, how can I get curious about what this is helping me to learn? When I'm working with my team and I have a deliverable, I will tell you, I have a deliverable due today that I have not yet started to work on. And on my hike this morning, I just kept asking myself, in an ideal world, you would take like 3 days to work on this. You're going to have 2 hours. So what's the minimum viable version that you can create that will be good enough? It's a question that I now practice asking myself. And so I'm learning to prioritize growth, learning and development rather than always getting it perfect. I see every moment of imperfection as a learning opportunity. And that has come with a feeling of, oh, just so much more ease and so much more freedom and liberation. And I'm not always stressing out myself. I'm not saying I don't have stress, but I can better manage and take command of my experience in those moments, right? I can start to experiment with imperfection and I can start to normalize mistakes, normalize trial and error. Let's just try and see what happens. I have no idea what just happened, Sarah.
It's okay, you're back.
But okay, let's pause here. And this is a framework that will invite you to take home and to continue working on, asking yourself what it's going to take for you to shift from having a limiting mindset that's perpetuating the challenge that you're finding yourself in, And what is the enabling mindset that you will need to cultivate in order to show up in the way that you desire? So that's the work. And when we go to Nepal, we'll have 2 weeks, 2 dedicated weeks to deepening the levels of introspection of this framework and cultivating the skills that will allow us to actually do this more effectively. So with the time that we have left, I'm going to say thank you. I'll invite any questions that you might have in the chat and turn it over to Sarah to share more. We're going to skip all of this. We don't have time for all of that. We'll have Sarah talk about the retreat experience. And just remembering that with more awareness comes a power to choose. With choice comes freedom. So I look forward to staying connected. Thank you all so much for hanging with me today. And I hope to see you in Nepal in April.
Thanks, Sky. Yeah, so I hope that you all feel inspired by that. And, I'd like you to just ask yourself if you are ready to invest in making that shift that you've identified, or if it's something greater than what we talked about in this workshop, to really do that internal work so that you can get in touch with your values, more deeply explore what are these limiting beliefs that are controlling my thoughts and behaviors and all of that, and really tap into, what are those dreams? And like Sky said, obviously this is not easy. The work really never ends, but you don't have to do it alone or in the dark. Through the retreat, we've actually made this into a very healing and expansive process. So we start with a safe space to rest and relax. I know a lot of us are just go, 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 go. Like you don't even have time to reflect on any of this. And, this type of work takes more than just a thought that popped in your head, when you were taking a shower or driving to work. So giving you that space and being in a new environment away from the distractions and busyness of your day-to-day life. And we'll also have a small group of other inspiring women who are going to be there to support you, show you compassion, where you feel free to be vulnerable and have these conversations. But we're also going to challenge you. So our coaches like Sky are going to help help you bring to light and make peace with whatever challenges or blocks are holding you back, and also find clarity as you navigate to what's next, or how do I intentionally create this life that I have envisioned for myself. And after, I want to make sure that you're set up for success. So after the retreat, you'll also have executive coaching as you're integrating those changes back into your daily life. You also have an opportunity to do a short skills-based volunteering project with a local social enterprise. And at the end, we are going to celebrate all of the growth that you've experienced with a helicopter tour of Mount Everest, because you will literally and figuratively be on top of the world. So this is truly the experience of a lifetime. I hope that you don't let it pass you by, because life is short and, we only have this one. So I really encourage you to just go all in. And also because you're at this workshop, you'll have a special opportunity. So if you schedule a coffee chat by today to meet this week, we can discuss if the retreat is a good option for you. And when you do reserve your spot, you'll get a complimentary villa upgrade and massage. So you can go to impactury.com to schedule that call. And also, Kate, if you go to the next slide, we also have more upcoming events that you can sign up for at impactury.com/event. If you enjoyed this one, we have more coming up. And Sky, I don't know if you wanted to give your 2 cents on the retreat and kind of just the personal transformation process, the vision that you have for that for everyone.
We just compacted a 2-week experience into like a 50-minute version of that. And the introspection, the insights, the discoveries, it takes time, it takes dedicated focus, it takes a sense of safety and the permission to do it with other people who are holding that space for you. I see Anthony's here, who just came off of retreat from last year, who I'm just so incredibly proud of the work that he continues to do with others on the journey. But it is a lifelong journey, and it's nice to be in community with people as you do that. I'm just going to pause and see. I'm curious what reflections you all might have on this condensed experience today, what insights might be coming through, and any questions that you have. I think we have just 2 more minutes if someone wants to come off of mute and share. Step into the circle. Yeah.
Maybe I can quickly ask a question. So I think everything was very valuable. So thank you for that. One question for me is like, not a question, is I guess a self-reflection, is identifying that belief, which is like literally the bottom of the triangle. So because there could be so many instances where you think it could be related to, but at the same time, identifying that one thing that brings you up the ladder. So I think that is for me the most challenging and yet motivating element into it.
What if it's not just one thing? What if it's many?
Then I may as well question my entire life for what I've been doing so far.
Yeah. And that can be scary. I mean, think about going deep diving down into the depth of the ocean. The lower you go, the darker it gets, the scarier it gets. And that's why many people don't do it. Because it's not always easy, but my God.
I like the dramatic effect to it. So yeah. Thank you, Sky.
I was gonna say it is so liberating. I mean, I know that is for me, going through my own kind of iceberg and all of the therapy and things that I've gone through to really get in touch with what is driving my behavior and why am I feeling so anxious and just not feeling satisfied with my life, even though I had all of the things that I really kind of similar to what Sky was saying. I mean, everything was on track and going according to plan, but there was that inner deep knowing of, there's something greater for me out there. This is not it, even though it seems like it. It was really those external expectations and external voices. And once I got in touch with that, I felt so liberated and I could finally start living in alignment. And that's what I was saying. For me, things really started changing all around me. Where once I started doing that and attracting more people into my life, who have those shared values and just being able to live with more ease because I didn't have all that pressure on myself to be perfect all the time. I really was liberated and felt, like I said, I'm still stressful things will pop up, but they don't impact me like they did in the past. I am able to now manage it in a much more healthy way. So anyway, I know we're at time now, so I want to be respectful of that. Thank you so much for everyone who joined. I hope that you found this really inspiring. And like I said, we have more events coming up every week for you. So you can go ahead and RSVP for those at impactury.com/event. And I hope to see you at the next one. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or on the website. You can email me as well. So thank you so much.